Dogs run fast.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome into my dog's favorite podcast, the Dynasty Dogs, brought to you by the Fantasy Football Universe. I am your host for this evening, Michael Anthony. Alongside me, as always, is the man who caught more birds' nests than actual fish yesterday while we were fishing, Rich McAteer. How are you, Rich? He's giving me the bird right now.
It just flew out of the fucking nest. Dude, it's still tangled. It's an absolute nightmare. $200 fishing rod, and I maybe casted it out like 10 times. I caught one fish, and then it was like, nah, that's good. You're good for now.
It was a very humbling experience for Rich while it was 90 degrees outside and one fish caught.
It was miserable, dude. I was like, all right, whatever. I would sling it, and the line would go out, but the line on the reel would just spin way faster than the fucking line. So it was like the line would just shoot up, and I'm just like, oh my god, dude, this fucking sucks.
Well, there goes.
I appreciate you sharing that with everyone.
I have a picture of it. I'll post it later on today. But in the doghouse with us, we have a very special guest, a fellow Marvin Mimsman, as they say, and the constant winner of the Fantasy Feud show on the Dynasty DNA network. We have Muscles Ryan Mahle. How are you, Muscles?
Oh, not too bad. How's everybody doing?
Doing good, doing good. I see you, constantly defeating Ty on the Fantasy Feud. How does it feel to leave that episode as a victor every single time?
Yeah, it does. It feels great. He has some takes out there that are just outlandish, and you just have to reel them back in every once in a while. But
to be honest, I think we all have those.
Oh
to
yeah,
be fair. And I'm sure some of ours will, be brought up today while we're doing our sells. First, we're going to go into our That Bite segment. We really don't have much to talk about other than Aaron Rodgers signing, and Muscles being the local Steelers fan here. I'm sure he'll have plenty to say about that. And then we are going to continue our Making Our Cases segment that we've been doing. But this is going to be sells, the wide receiver and tight end position for Dynasty Fantasy Football. Are you guys excited and you ready to go?
Let's do it.
Oh, boy.
All right, well, first, here we go. Rich's favorite part is when I hit the graphic for the That Bite segment.
I'm going to show you my graphic. Here is the graphic that I'm going to show you in 3, 2, 1. Here it comes.
And there it goes.
Just do it.
The only real news that we have is Aaron Rodgers signs with the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers continue to try to be playoff Super Bowl contenders, and it just continues to, fall flat on their face. Constant 500 team. Muscles, we'll start with you on this. How are you feeling after that signing as a Steelers fan and as a fantasy analyst yourself? How does this signing make you feel?
Oh, man.
This is a therapy session also now.
Yeah. I don't think you get paid enough for that, huh? I hate it because, growing up, through high school and then, after high school, it was, every year it was, Super Bowl or bust with the Steelers. During the Big Ben prime, it was, every offseason you're like, oh, man, this is the year. And then they did go to 3 Super Bowls during that time. But, now it just seems like the standard is just 500. That's just the standard nowadays. And we just keep putting a Band-Aid on the quarterback situation. And my personal opinion would have been just let's roll with Mason or maybe Will Howard and just see what we have. And worst case scenario, hey, they suck and maybe we get a good quarterback. But I know I saw a tweet that said the Steelers signing Aaron Rodgers is like hooking up finally with your high school crush when she's 40 and has 4 kids. And I think it's 100% the truth.
So how do you feel from a fantasy aspect of it? Are you excited about the Aaron Rodgers signing for, the pass catchers or for him, I guess, his fantasy value? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, it's it should definitely give DK a bump. I mean, it should give Freiermuth a bump. I mean, obviously, you're not having Mason Rudolph throw him the ball. I would hope this gives Caleb Johnson a bump because now people do have to respect the pass game. They're not just looking for handoffs all the time. Like, I don't think any defense is going to line up and be like, oh my God, Mason Rudolph might take us deep. Let's play back. So like it definitely, I think, gives all the weapons a bump. I mean, as far as Aaron Rodgers, I just don't trust Arthur Smith enough. I don't know. I mean, that's going to be a whole thing in of itself. I'm going to wait for the week 4. Arthur Smith said this behind Rodgers' back, and Rodgers is going on the Pat McAfee show saying this about Arthur Smith because I have a feeling that's happening at some point. So I don't know if I'm like, I don't, even if I'm a contender, I don't even know if I really want Rodgers for a second. I mean, I don't know how you guys feel about
nasty.
that.
That's nasty work.
That's exactly how I feel. So I don't really think it changes my outlook for Rodgers.
I think I would rather.
How do you guys feel?
I was going to see it. Yeah, when you're gambling that like second on an older quarterback, I don't know if this is spicy at this point. I'd rather take that role on like a Matthew Stafford if I'm going to go, the older quarterback route. Because with the plethora of pass catching options he has out there, and then you have the Sean McVay system compared to an Arthur Smith system, you're comparing apples to like a lamp. It's completely fucking different, obviously.
Apples in a lamp.
Yeah, completely different. I just looked at my lamp. That was the first fucking thing that popped into my head.
I got. Speaking of lamp, this light right here it's just absolutely killing me. Hold on. Yeah, continue, guys.
Rich's ADHD can't let him get past anything, to be honest.
No.
But yeah, like you were saying, when it comes to buying these older quarterbacks, it's not a bad option, especially as a contending roster, because at this point in Superflex leagues, we talk about it constantly. 3 quarterbacks is almost a must. Almost a must, not a muscles, but a must at this point. Just the amount of quarterback injuries and stuff like that. Rich, what do you think about Aaron Rodgers' fantasy value, and do you have any interest in him?
No, I can't stand Aaron Rodgers. I could never stand Aaron Rodgers. He's like the like that GIF. Do you see with the Grim Reaper going into a door, and it's like got the Jets on it? Now he's going into the Steelers. He's just such a succubus type football player. I can't stand him. I never really could. You did talk about Freiermuth and DK taking a bump, and Johnson. That's before in 2 or 3 days when Alan Lizard signs with the Steelers and Randall Cobb signs with the Steelers, and anyone else who's his friend is going to sign with the Steelers. Jordy Nelson. Dude, don't go out and get Freiermuth because Bubba Franks is going to come out of retirement and or Mercedes Lewis.
I think he's still playing. Is actually the crazy.
He's
part.
probably. But
he
no,
was with the Bears like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I wouldn't shock me if that dude's still playing. Just a constant professional.
I think he was 42 or something like that. But yeah, I remember that. But I mean, if he stays healthy, maybe. But I don't think it really does much for the Steelers. I think they're just going to be a middling team, just like they have been, unfortunately, for the past what seems like 15 years. But yeah, I don't think it really does that much for them. To be honest with you, I think, and you know what? Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers is a guy who, in my opinion, is not going to teach Will Howard how to play the quarterback position. I feel like he's going to walk by and he's going to kind of cover his notes when Will Howard walks by. He's not the type. He's not the type that's going to.
He's not going to let you pass chemistry class. He's not.
No, he's a gate. He is the epitome of a gatekeeper, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I was really, really hoping that they kind of didn't bring him in, but.
Well, we have a question from the chat. Somebody Muscles knows pretty well. Would you rather have Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback? I guess I don't know if TJ means for the Steelers or for fantasy. I guess we'll answer that both ways.
Oh, I have a despise for both of them, so I know he means for the Steelers because I could not stand the corny workout videos indoors with his sunglasses on, and then I'm a Broncos fan too. I'm a Broncos fan too. So there was that whole fiasco of him high stepping on the plane, on their plane ride overseas, and I'm like, this guy is like the corniest dude ever.
It's a battle of corny between those two.
Oh,
you got the cornball, and then you got the dude who's like smoking wet in the corner, and Aaron Rodgers like dipping his cigarettes in embalming fluid, like not knowing what's going on, tweaking the hell out. But
yeah, the Steelers just had a bad string of quarterbacks the last 2 years. It's just terrible.
Would you rather? So we're gonna say for contending purposes. Would you rather take the swing on Rodgers, who probably has a slight more value than Russell Wilson, especially with the quarterback carousel they have in New York currently?
Yeah.
Would you just rather take the swing on Rodgers here for fantasy purposes?
I'd rather not take either, but I think Rodgers. I think Wilson's time's almost borrowed time. I think Dart plays by mid-season. I don't think he sits the entire season, whereas Aaron Rodgers is obviously going to play the whole season. So.
Yeah,
I go Rodgers.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's pretty easy. I just wanted to answer it both ways, just in case TJ meant fantasy purposes. But let's get into our that bites set, or not that bites. We just did that.
Oh my God! You already told everyone you hit the graphic.
Let's get into our make our case for sells. Let's hear our media thing real quick.
In the dynasty-based system, having bad trades is considered especially heinous. In the fantasy football universe, a dynamic duo called the Dynasty Dogs is here to help you win your leagues. These are their theories.
Thank you.
I think Russell Wilson made that. How corny that is.
Hey. I get a lot of compliments on the Law and Order themed thing we got going on. But I will start. I will go with the first tight end that I'm going to bring up. And I want tight end here because this is a name you guys mentioned here 3 or 4 times. That's going to be Pat Freiermuth is going to be my sell. Tight end 11 last year, tight end 16 points per game, 9.1. The biggest thing is, not even just Aaron Rodgers. The biggest issue for Freiermuth right now is I've seen 2 separate reports now that the Steelers are looking into bringing in another tight end. I've seen the Jonnu Smith rumors. That's been circling around. And then today or yesterday, I think I saw it twice, Kyle Pitts was mentioned as a tight end buy for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I feel like Arthur Smith just wants to recreate what he had in Atlanta, bringing in both of those guys. So my problem with Freiermuth is that also with Aaron Rodgers, I looked this up earlier, through his career going back to last year, 17% of his targets went to the tight end position, which is middle of the road. I mean, I think he's going to feed DK Metcalf. I think Calvin Austin as a nice, like a slot outside kind of guy, this might feed a little bit more than a Pat Freiermuth. I just don't trust him, to be honest with you. I'd rather try to tier up into like a George Kittle if I'm a contender, into a, I don't know, Mark Andrews. That's probably a tier down at this point. I'd rather tier down into Mark Andrews. Some of the trades I saw on DynastyDaddy.com, I've seen him go for anywhere from a mid to late second to an early third. And to be honest with you guys, I'd rather take a swing on all of those tight ends that were drafted in the second round of this year's NFL draft. The Mason Taylors, the Elijah Arroyos, the Terrence Fergusons. Obviously, I think Arroyo has the highest upside, but then you're kind of taking a swing on him or the Mason Taylors or Terrence Fergusons. I'd rather take a swing there. And a guy who's just probably going to be a borderline tight end 1, high-end tight end 2 for fantasy purposes, Freiermuth, I mean. So I'd rather try to swing for upside or tier up or even tier down and get some more capital than try to trot out Freiermuth another season for fantasy purposes. Gentlemen of the jury, we'll start with you here, Muss. Is that a good sell or a bad sell?
Yeah, I honestly think it's a good sell. Yeah, especially if you can get a second. I'm all about that. A third, boy, is that kind of tough. I think I might just roll with them and just in case. But I mean, we got to remember Darnell Washington. I really like Darnell Washington coming out of college, and I thought the Steelers got a steal on him in the draft. Now they really haven't used him as much as I would like because that guy's just an athletic freak. But I hope he starts to carve into that role, maybe just a little bit more. And I think that's what that's what pains me the most if we do go out and trade for Kyle Pitts or Johnny Smith, because I think if Darnell got a bigger role, I think he could shine. But
yeah, for sure.
I honestly, for a second, I'm shipping Freiermuth off all day.
Well, so the reason I say a third I'm okay with is because obviously I think we've all been in a multitude of rookie drafts at this point. I constantly see those tight ends go in the third round of our rookie drafts. Obviously, we're talking like a lot of rookie drafts are over, but these, still a lot of leagues are still having their rookie draft. So I'd rather try to, even if it's like the 302 at this year, I might take the swing there with one of those guys. That's the reason why I say a third I've accepted at this point.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, especially if you can get like a Milrow. I think a Milrow is a great
That's a
game
good one,
in the
too.
third round. I think I'd take Milrow over Freiermuth. And even wide receiver, I was high on Royals. I'm getting a lot of him in the third round. So, like, I think I'm right there with you now that you talked that out loud. If I can get like, these guys, I wasn't real big on them tight ends that are going kind of later. I think I just roll with the 10 points you're going to get from Freiermuth. But, if I can get a Milrow or a Royals and hope I can hit them ceilings and,
That's a good call. I like the Milrow call. And especially we love Jalen Royals on this podcast as well. So that's a great call. But I think, we mentioned a tight end I didn't mention that I think you liked as well, Muss, and I know you did, Rich. Harold Fannin, who would you rather have?
Yep.
I think
I kind of think you can get if you can move off of Freiermuth and get any sort of second round pick, any of those tight ends, I think are going to wind up being better than what you'll get out of Freiermuth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why he's a sell for me. Even if like you end up kicking the can down the road to like a 2026 second, I saw that a couple different times on Dynasty Daddy where that was a trade possibility. So yeah, I'm definitely shipping out Freiermuth, tearing up, tearing down, whatever I can do depending on my team build at that time. Who would like to go next? We'll take a vote here. Actually, you know what? We'll let the guests go first. Do you want to go tight ends or wide receiver sell here, Muss?
I'll go ahead and go tight end. I'll go right there with you. I'm going to use this hype that maybe he goes to the Steelers. I'm going to sell Kyle Pitts. I was the biggest Kyle Pitts guy when he came out of college. I'm like, oh man, and I was a big. This was before we had the Dynasty DNA, and I was listening to the Dynasty nerds, and they're like, yeah, we're getting Travis Kelce at 20-some years old, and I'm buying that hype machine. If they would have made his bathwater into soap like Sidney Sweeney, I would have probably bought it. I
wonder if I won that. I got to check.
Wait, hold on, time out. What?
Yeah, dude, it was like some sort of giveaway. It was a giveaway or something. They were giving it away on 6/6. It was like limited to 5,000 bars. You gotta fill out something on drsquatch.com.
He knows all about it.
That's a scary thing that he actually knows about it.
Busted. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna. He's just, man. I know Andy said that you were talking to him, and he just can't separate from even like linebackers in the NFL. Like he just can't get any separation at all. And Johnny Smith was out playing him in Atlanta, and like, man, I think I'm to the point where I'm thinking he's just kind of just going to be a bust, man. And it's at this point, if I've held on to him this long, and maybe he does go somewhere and flourish, I think I'm still over it. And I was in the trade browser there, and I still see a few where you can get a first for him. So
that's insane.
If you can somehow get a first for Kyle Pitts, I'm all for it. If you can flip it and maybe get like a Rashee Rice, or something like that. I love that move. I'm just looking to get out from underneath it, because if he goes somewhere else and he doesn't succeed, I think the bottom's falling out. I don't even what's he going to be at that point?
Yeah. I love this call by you, and I know Rich does as well, and I'm sure he'll talk about it here shortly. But the best thing in Dynasty Fantasy Football, or the best trades in Dynasty Fantasy Football, are probably the ones that never go through or never get accepted, because I don't know how many times during the Kyle Pitts hype I was trying to sell or buy him for multiple firsts or multiple picks or multiple things. I was just trying to get it, especially in tight end premium leagues. Like you mentioned, Travis Kelce at 20 years old. Like I bought into the athletic ability. I bought into the wide receiver playing tight end ability. You know, I was all in, and I am so glad that every single trade that I tried to make for him got rejected because somebody else believed in that hype as well. So some of the best trades are the ones that are not accepted. Don't forget that. Rich, I know you have a lot to say about Kyle.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my speaking role here. Yeah, dude, Kyle Pitts is one of mine too. So yeah, we're right on that train. I'm tired of every single year in or year out, I hear, you know, it's Kyle Pitts' year, it's Kyle Pitts' year, and then year in, year out, it's not Kyle Pitts' year, it's not Kyle Pitts' year. And it sucks because he's a local guy, and I always want local guys to succeed, but Jesus Christ, I'm tired of hearing, well, it's the quarterback, and then, you know, it's because he was playing with Desmond Ritter, and then it's because he's playing with Kirk Cousins, and then it's because he's playing with Michael Penix. No, we have Michael Penix. How many more goddamn excuses can we make for the guy? And I think it's part of it goes into he was taken ahead of Jamar Chase, which is enormous. He should have never been drafted where he was drafted. But at the same time, every year they kind of make an excuse for him. And I've been over it since last season, but this season I'm like even more over it. But I'm kind of feeling the opposite way that you do if he does get moved. I think.
You're doing it to yourself right now.
I might move a little back in and be like, oh, maybe he just needs to change the scenery, dude. Maybe.
But you just said all of that to say,
I know.
Well, if he gets moved.
Because you know why? I'm leaving the door open because I'm like seeing shit with the Eagles, and I'm like, fuck, dude, I can't talk. I can't hate him if he comes here. It's gonna be like, well. But you know that I talk about it all the time. I always think change of scenery can be good for a player. But as far as him staying in Atlanta, it's awful. It's awful. There's nothing more I can say about it. I got a few trades written down here that I thought were hell yeah, you pull the trigger on every one. I use Dynasty Daddy as well. Pitts for a 2025 202.
Yeah,
probably
202.
Do that, yeah.
Pitts and Chris, I get a concussion. Olave for Higgins.
T. Higgins?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I would do that.
All right, now this one I feel like was kind of a little bit spicier, but I think I would take the other side here. Pitts, Ayuk, and a 26th third for our Devontae Smith.
That one's close. Is it tight end premium? Did you happen to see if it was or not?
Yeah.
I might stay on.
But I mean, even with tight end premium, Kyle Pitts scores you fucking 11 points.
Yeah.
I think I'd still stay on the Pitts side because you're getting a young wide receiver with Ayuk. A third, you know, that's kind of a throw in. It's kind of a gamble.
Sure.
And then, you know, if there's a tight end next year that, you know, maybe piques my interest in the third round, maybe I can end up being something better than Kyle Pitts. But I don't mind that move for Pitts on that one. You know, I can't believe you just did all that and said, well, if he gets moved, then I might be back in. He literally did you did the George Bush. Fooled me, can't get fooled again. And then you're getting fooled again anyway. So.
I know, but dude, what if he gets traded here? Then it's like, what am I going to fucking hate the guy when I'm watching him every Sunday?
Probably.
Come on.
I mean, we do it to Dallas Goedert, to be honest with you.
Dude, oh, man, don't get me started on him. I can't stand that motherfucker. Woo! Dude, you don't know how mad I was when I was watching him. Like, Ferguson, second round. I'm like, well, that fucking sucks because I thought he was going to fall to the Eagles, and then they wind up not taking a tight end at all.
So, back to what you were saying about, you know, his inability to separate as well. You know, Rich brought up the excuses. You brought up the excuses. What was it, 2 years ago? They were saying, well, he was playing injured. He really couldn't. I think he had like a bad ankle or a knee. I can't remember exactly.
Something like that.
And it was like, okay, I could kind of see it, why he didn't look as elusive, why he didn't look as like athletic. They kind of had him blocking a little bit more, if I remember correctly. And then last year, I'm like, okay, you know, Kirk Cousins should be an upgrade at quarterback. Obviously, that kind of turned out to be fool's gold on that. But then Michael Penix is rifling it around, right? So I thought, okay, you know, maybe but he still didn't look right. He just hasn't looked, I would say maybe 2 or 3 years now. He hasn't looked like that guy that came out of Florida that was just like an athletic specimen. And it's a shame because I completely agree with you. I really thought he was going to be the next big thing at tight end, and it hasn't really happened.
I definitely see Rich's point because I that's what I've been hoping for the last year. I'm like, maybe he gets moved at the deadline. Like last deadline, they were supposedly fielding calls, and I'm like, maybe he gets moved at the deadline, and like maybe that's the. But at the same time, it's like, what if he does go somewhere else? And like I said, what if he doesn't? What if he does the same thing? And it's like, then are you even getting a third for him? Like if you do want to move him, and yeah, I guess a second and a third like isn't too far off, but like I'm just afraid of like, is he just hold no value at that point? And that's like, it's crazy to say because like you said, like you were having to trade multiple first rounds for him, and then the bottom would just fall off, just fall out.
I'm so glad that it never happened. Now, I have a question for you guys now that we brought up Kyle Pitts. As a contender in a dynasty league, obviously, I think you could even get more on top of this player. Would you rather have Kyle Pitts or Evan Ingram?
Evan Ingram.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
I think you could
hesitation.
even get something on top of Evan Ingram if you were to move Kyle Pitts just because of the age. If you're selling him to a rebuilder, I think that would be the perfect move. So, Muscles, you get a perfect sweep here. I think Rich and I both agree with you on this sell of Kyle Pitts. So that
considering I have him here as one of myself, then yes.
So, Rich, that was technically your first tight end sell. So why don't you give us your second one here?
All right. Well, now it's got me all out of whack here. I'm going to go Travis Kelce.
Whoa, okay. I like it.
So I'm going to give it away here. It is a guy that, should not, in my opinion, retire on your roster. I think he's kind of progressively gone down each season, in my opinion. And, we know so well here with the Kelce's, is he going to retire this year? We heard Jason saying there was, he might retire this year, and he played 3 more years. We're starting to get that with Travis here with, last year we had the whisperings of this might be his last year. And when they start to say, well, it might be his last year, I think it's time to get off the old wagon there. I think you can kind of, get what you can for him, and to a team who's, kind of contending, you can move him for, say, I got here, Jake Ferguson, kind of a younger guy. You can bring back capital for a team who's, trying to go further in the playoffs. Whereas, next year he may not even play. Next year he might, fall off. And in my opinion, I feel like he's fallen off. I think he's 35, 34, 35, if I'm not mistaken. I know the name's a bit of a shocker, but that's just how I feel about him. I've seen a couple trades, Kelce for a 25-11. I feel like that's kind of that's like perfect because that falls right in line with I've seen Loveland go around there. Maybe Warren. Warren was going where did he go in ours? Like 10 or
no,
9,
that was
something like that. So
you're way off.
Yeah.
Warren and Loveland were 110s.
Oh yeah, I read. Yeah, you're right. I was thinking 111.
I was gonna say, what kind of fancy drafts are you guys?
You could probably get
Mason Taylor,
Terrence Ferguson there. Mason Taylor, Terrence Ferguson, definitely Harold Fenton. I feel like he'd be lower than all 3 of those guys. But that's kind of like almost like you're resetting the clock, turning back the clock a little bit. A 35-year-old guy for a 23-year-old tight end when this draft was like heavy in tight ends. So if you could have moved them. I know most rookie drafts are over. I know one of our buddies still has one coming up. It's a later draft, but if you can move him and get a rookie tight end, I'd be pretty excited. I seen another one, Kelce and your boy Aaron Rodgers for Jake Ferguson and a 26 fourth.
You really are on buying Jake Ferguson right now, aren't you? Seems like it.
Yeah. I mean, just younger tight ends, dude. If you can switch out a 35-year-old tight end and a tight end premium, then hell yeah, go for it.
So I like the mention of Jake Ferguson here a couple times, to be honest with you, because I think, Dak Prescott, we want to talk about guys that target the tight end. Dak Prescott is a guy who just feeds the tight end position historically from Dalton Schultz to now Jake Ferguson. My biggest fear with Ferguson is He's a free agent. I was just looking it up because I heard you mention him a couple times. And I also am interested in for Ferguson this year as well. But he's a free agent after this season. And we've seen Dallas Cowboys tight ends go to, greener pastures that we thought, like with Dalton Schultz going to Houston. And it really hasn't worked out because, one thing or another. But I am interested for Ferguson for this season because I think Pickens opens things up on the outside. CeeDee Lamb just does everything, elite. And then Ferguson's just the guy, the safety blanket in the middle of the field that could, easily get you, 5 or 6 receptions per game. And I think that's pretty safe. So I do like that move. It's going to sound super ugly when we say it out loud, trading Travis Kelce for Jake Ferguson. But in reality, it's not that bad of a thought process. So I don't mind it.
It's kind of one of those things. Do you want to keep him on your team until he's no longer relevant at all? You know what I mean? Do you want the Jordan on the Wizards? You know what I mean? It's
still made the All-Star game,
dude. I know you're telling me as a Jordan I think is number one goddamn fan, but it's kind of when it's time, it's time. And we've seen this in all sports facets. Moving guys in real life, like we went through with Jimmy Rollins and Chase Utley when we moved them to LA. You know what I mean? All of our favorite guys. It's eventually time to move on from them. And I think Kelce, it might be time to move on while you can get some value for him. One more trade here, guys, that I want to see. Mike, I know that you're in love with this fella. Kelce, Mike Evans, and JSN for a 27 first and 2 27 seconds.
So Mike Evans.
Two quarterback, tight end premium. Mike Evans, Travis Kelce, and JSN for a 2027 first and 2 27 seconds.
I think I'm leaning the Kelce Evans JSN side because you're still getting a young wide receiver who's, probably top 15 in most dynasty rankings. He's my number 12, if I'm not mistaken, high PPR asset. Then you're getting two guys that, Mike Evans, I think you talked about a guy not, finishing his career on your roster. Mike Evans is going to finish his career on my roster every single time, especially.
You're not going to like my wide receivers, then, buddy.
Oh boy, here we go. All right, so he's dropping the bait in early. He didn't catch anything, but
because I got a bird nest, that's why.
No, but I see the thought process behind that move because you're getting that 27 first, which is the hot commodity right now with Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. But the 2 seconds, they're kind of still dart throws because what were they 26 seconds or
27?
27. Yeah, those are real dart throws because it's you're 2 years down the road and second round picks when you have it.
Right when Arch Manning comes out, use on the move up.
True.
Future Steeler great Arch Manning.
I wish.
What do you think about that deal, Muss?
I definitely get the philosophy behind it. It's definitely a gamble because it's I'm always trying to get the most out of a guy. So it's do you sell him now and hope that he doesn't have a boom game, or do you wait for that boom game and people are like, oh my God, Travis Kelce's back, and then maybe you could squeeze an extra something out of somebody. But like I said, that you do run I'm all about it. I ship off veterans.
I've heard.
As soon as somebody hits 30 years old, they're off my roster. That Ty makes fun of me all the time. But
he's like the Leonardo DiCaprio over here.
Exactly. And so I'm all about it. I'm just because I have Kelce in a couple of leagues where I'm oh man, do I ship him off now and just try to get you say get a third, get just whatever and just be happy with it, or do I wait for a boom game? And people were oh, Travis Kelce, he's got 3 more years in him. Not really, but so it's a gamble. I don't know what the correct answer
exactly
is.
It.
Yeah, this is
3 more years.
God,
got 3 more years left, but are they really going to be productive years? You know what I mean?
I absolutely agree. I don't think he's probably even half the Travis Kelce he was 2 years ago. I mean, I think he's got off-field distractions. and obviously
Mhm.
he's getting older. So yeah, I definitely agree. I don't think he's half the tight end he once was even 2 years ago.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think I'm more what Musk said, and I think it actually kind of swayed me to the opposite side on holding Kelsey until the season, because this is like a really bad time to sell those older veterans because rookie fever is kind of at
Yeah.
its peak because everybody just
Mm.
got their shiny new guys, their shiny new draft picks, all that stuff. I think what Musk said is, wait till that boom game. Wait till he hits like, 8 receptions, 89 yards in a TD where he's got over 20 points. And then immediately you're probably going from a third to like an early second at that point because the hype is going to be out of control again. So I'm gonna say no to this for right now, but I do see I
And then
see
say you had to sell
no,
him
so
right
I
now.
say no
You
right
could go
now,
on
but
your phone and
I say no right now, but I say yes during the season. So I mean, I guess I'm a maybe seller on this one. Muss, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm not definitely for sure sell. I'm with you. I don't know if it's the perfect
oh, here we
time,
go. Well,
but
t- two maybes equal one yes, I think.
yeah,
At least I get one.
but we're not saying, like you said, we're not saying go out and sell them right at this second. Like, don't check
True.
Super right now to see what league you have them in and try to ship them off. But it's
Right.
definitely one to keep in the back of your head.
For sure. And then what I was thinking before we go into this, my next sell here for tight ends is when I was trying to figure out who I wanted to sell at tight end. When you get past like tight end 6 or 7 in most rankings or your own rankings or looking at other like keep trade cut and stuff like that, it really is all a crapshoot, right? And Travis Kelsey kind of falls into that category at this point, being 30 plus years old. So it's kind of pick your poison at this point. So my next tight end sell is actually going to be another younger guy. And it might come to a surprise for some people because I do think he is a kind of a riser to a certain extent, especially after last season. It's going to be Tucker Kraft, tight end for the Green Bay Packers. Tight end 14 in points per game last year, 9.7 in PPR. Tight end 8 on keep trade cut. 2 separate startups. I've seen him go in the 9th round ahead of guys like Jonnu Smith, the aforementioned Travis Kelsey, and all the second round rookie tight ends. The reason I'm afraid of him is he only had 65 targets last year, and that's with him seeing over 80% of the snaps in all games except for 2. And he also ran the 14th most routes according to PFF at the tight end position. So you've got all that, and then you're adding Savion Williams, Matthew Golden to an already congested pass catching options on the Green Bay Packers. Tucker Kraft is a major sell for me. And if you could still get that early second for him, I'm all aboard for that. Because I do think people are going to look at what he did last year, finishing. I think he was actually, I didn't take it down, but I think he was like tight end 8 or 9 finish for total points. And people are going to see that and be like, oh, wow, this is actually a good guy to go out and grab. But I think I'm out, man. He's just that pass catching room is completely just oversaturated. 65 targets really doesn't do anything for me, and I could see that even going down more now. The more options are there, I am quickly selling him if I can. And what do you guys think?
Well, I think, oversaturated, I'm not sure is the right word. Maybe unknown, I would say, is more of, a word I'd like to use. But, every quarterback needs a safety blanket in tight end. Tucker Kraft, is that, is that Jordan Love's safety blanket? I don't know. They also have Musgrave there, who doesn't do much in the pass catching game. But you did bring up a good point with the rookie wide receivers coming in. So I think that kind of is more mouths to feed. I think I'd get on board with a sell here, especially like you said, if you can get an early second, I would pull the trigger on it.
Yeah, he's a guy I think I'd rather add a second or like a third two or something like that and try to tier up to like it's going to sound crazy because you're going a lot older. Adding Kraft and a third probably gets you not Travis Kelce, George Kittle at this point. And on a contending roster, I'm all about that.
Yeah.
So it's basically essentially like an early to mid second and a third for George Kittle. And I think that could get it done depending on obviously team builds for that team. But I would be looking to tier up from a guy like Tucker Kraft. Muss, what do you think?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Tucker Kraft was always a guy that could never stay on the field either. And he's been kind of getting I don't want to say lucky because, I mean, I know injuries can happen. But, like, I remember scouting him in college, and it seemed like he was always kind of getting hurt. And I think he was hurt his first year. Like, I think
he was
hurt to start his career or whatever. So, like, that's always in the back of my head. Like, he is more prone to injury, I think. And he's gotten pretty lucky, knock on wood. So that's always back there too. But yeah, that Green Bay room, I don't know what they're doing there. It's just, I mean, like I always say, Matt LaFleur is a lot smarter than I am. Don't get me wrong. But it just seems like they just roll out whoever they want to roll out on any particular play. There's no rhyme or reason for anything that they do in that Packers pass catching room. So
yeah,
I'm all about it. I want no part of it at this point.
And I still think, like, if Musgrave is healthy, and this is going to sound crazy, I think Luke Musgrave is a better pass catcher, a better fantasy option than a Tucker Kraft. Because, like, I was a big Musgrave guy coming out of college. That Oregon State film, to me, he was kind of in that Dalton Kincaid, like that wide receiver playing tight end kind of guy. Like, if you want to comp him to somebody now, I would say like a Elijah Arroyo type player where they're, field stretching kind of tight ends, eat up the seam kind of tight ends. I think if Musgrave is healthy, I think the Packers might even try to get him involved in that dreaded pass catching room. So he's
would not surprise me.
He's a big avoid for me. Rich, what do you think? Are you agreeing with that?
Yeah, I said I agree. But I do have some breaking news. According to Daily Loud on Twitter, Sydney Sweeney's bathwater soap sold out in seconds after dropping today.
What is that sounder? We don't have the breaking news sounder on.
I was not sitting here
breaking news sounder,
but
seconds, dude. It sold out in seconds somehow. That's insane. That's either some really dirty bastards or either way they're dirty.
Either way they're dirty is completely true. All right, Muss, hit us with your second tight end sell.
All right, I definitely, if you listen to the DNA show, sometimes I like to be controversial, so I will go a completely controversial take here, and I'll get your guys' opinion. Is Brock Bowers a sell right now? Because this is kind of a spicy one. I was in a startup. I was in a startup, and he went in the first round of a startup. Okay, there was that one, and I was kind of like, I get it. I get the positional advantage. Don't get me wrong. And then I was in the trade browser looking, and there's 3 first-round picks and Jalen McMillan for Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers and 2 first-round picks and Ladd McConkey. Like, listen, I get it. I get it. Brock Bowers is a unicorn. Like, this is Kyle Pitts. What we wanted Kyle Pitts to be is what Brock Bowers is. But what I will also say is, like, I don't think this is 2020 anymore where it's like Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, and then a huge tier. Like, I'm not just selling Brock Bowers just to whatever, the highest bidder, come get him. But, like, I just think if you can get like three first-round picks is crazy.
True. And
plus some on top of that. So, like, I think it's worth exploring that option if somebody is willing to buy that hype. And another thing that kind of like is kind of gearing me towards that is Ashton Genty.
Okay.
I know Andy kind of said this to me on break. We worked together. He said this to me on break. He's like, if you believe in Ashton Genty, does it hurt Brock Bowers' if Ashton Genty hits his ceiling, does that take from Bowers or does that help Bowers? I mean, it's So we saw this with Laporta last year. Laporta came out, was tight end 1. He didn't put up quite the numbers Brock Bowers did, but Laporta kind of took a step back. So it's like, I just don't know, guys. This is one that's like, it's definitely worth throwing out
Exploring. Yeah.
Well-
I've seen the first round startup picks that you were talking about, especially in tight end premium leagues, where it happens. In our fantasy football universe startup, he went at the 1-9 in our startup draft, which I get it and I like it. I would have probably done it as well. He was an option for me at the 1-8. I ended up taking Jalen Hurts in a super flex format. I'm good with that. I kind of see what you're saying because, like, I was messing around on Keep Trade Cut, to be honest with you, a couple days ago. And I think it was like Brock Bowers for Trey McBride and Devontae Smith was equal value. And I'm like, is the drop from Trey McBride, or is the drop from Brock Bowers to Trey McBride at another like first round wide receiver value? I don't know if that makes sense in my brain. So I kind of like that you brought this up because it is extremely spicy. And like,
it's
I
definitely
think
one to talk about. Like, just,
as someone who has Brock Bowers on their roster, or at least one of his rosters, I think you'd have to come beating down my door to come and get him.
right.
Dude, he's he's single-handedly got me like 55 fucking points in a game, and I'm just like, dude, you gotta come
this
with
is
a
great.
watch this one, Mike. You gotta come with a pretty big package to get Brock Bowers off of me, dude. There's no way, dude. And talking to the guy who traded me Brock Bowers.
No. I didn't. No.
Oh, no.
He
It was
loves
the 1-6. It was the 1-6, and I got Drake May. All right.
Yeah, I
Dude,
moved back and I got Drake May
Yeah.
and he got Brock Bowers. It was the rookie draft. I'm still
It
good
was
with
insane.
it.
It was awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome
Yeah,
for now, which is fine. But I'm still happy with Drake May.
Cool.
No, but
Is that what you tell
I like.
yourself?
I like this.
No, I
thought
love Brock
process,
Bowers
though.
though, man.
I do too. Like I said,
think-
he's what we wanted Kyle Pitts to be.
Yeah.
Like I definitely, I get it. I just think if like you can get that massive haul, I think it's worth considering.
You would have to bring the
Well,
U-Haul
like-
truck to get it. Yeah, I get.
Right. What is it? What did you say was three first? Or was
Three
it
first, 2 were in 2027, 1 was in 2026. So obviously we don't know where they are. And then Jalen McMillan, which I mean,
That's like
that's-
a third at this point.
yeah, that's whatever. But like, if you can get something remotely like maybe a better receiver, like maybe a second roundish receiver, or maybe another first roundish receiver. I definitely
2 first and McConkey has my interest a little bit.
Yeah,
Mm.
2 first and McConkey. Would 2 first and McConkey get them from your team, Rich?
You know what's hilarious?
You
I have McConkey on my team. So yeah, baby. Dude, I listen to this. I got Bowers, I got McConkey, I got Malik Neighbors, I got Bucky Irving on that team. Dude, I got a young couple stallions. But no, I don't know, man. You'd have to blow the doors off to get me to trade him.
Laporta
And
and
it's
2
like-
firsts?
Ooh.
That's a little harder. Yeah, that's a little tougher, dude. Just because I liked Laporta a lot too when he came out. But like my thing is, it's like, am I going to give you Bowers and then those firsts are going to be 112? You know what I mean? Like, is the 112 and 26 and the 112 and 27, whoever it may be, is that worth it? I haven't looked that far into, who's coming out 2 years from now besides Arch Manning, but
Right.
I don't know,
Smith.
dude. Because Bowers is like a wide, tight end receiver. Like he's all the positions in one. So it's like, I don't know, dude. He's not a safety blanket tight end. He's not the guy that
He's
you know what I mean. Right. So that makes it so much harder, dude.
It does. It's
Again,
definitely
dude,
a hard conversation to have. This isn't an easy one.
This is a therapy session type conversation we're having.
It
Right
is.
I think it would take a whole lot for me to move Bowers. A whole lot. I'd be leaning towards I'm not moving him.
Okay.
I would be leaning because it's like 2 firsts and Sam Laporta. It seems like a slam dunk answer.
I think that's the best. That's the best trade that I've heard for him.
And especially in a tight
Sam
end
Laporta.
premium league, because like we've seen what Sam Laporta is. My biggest fear with Laporta right now is like a new offensive coordinator. Is it going to be different? But like it's still the same. You know, they brought in somebody from the Detroit Lions like room where they, you know, he's the offensive coordinator now. So it's like, will they change what's worked? I don't know. I get where you're going with this, and I really like that you brought this up. But like, I don't think I can mentally move him, if that makes sense. I think my spirit would break if I were to trade him away.
I wouldn't feel good about trading him. That's for sure. Like no matter what the trade package was, I'd feel like shit. Like regardless,
you couldn't sleep that night.
Yeah, right, dude. I'd be like so hungover.
He's gonna be hanging out with Aaron
dude.
Rodgers smoking wet.
I'm gonna be in a fucking cave in like my underwear, like the fuck. What did I do? Where are my Newports?
All right. So, yeah, I think we both got no's on that one. Listen, Moss, I got destroyed last week for bringing in Marshawn Lloyd as a buy last week, so you're not the first one to take.
I get the Marshawn Lloyd buy.
Thank you.
I get good buy, but yes, good.
Give us your first wide receiver sell since you already had Kyle Pitts.
You're gonna love this. You're gonna love it. It pains me to say it, Mike, but much like Travis Kelce, I don't think Mike Evans is the guy who should die on your or retire on your roster.
Our opening video. Why would you do that?
I know. You ever heard that song? No, I said it pains me to say it. I didn't say it brings me joy. I don't think he's a guy who retires on your roster. He did average 17.2 last year. 17.2, Mike. I know you hate when I read numbers because I have dyscalculia. That's why they get all jumbled in my head. 17.2.
Not a guy. I'm proud of you.
But you know, Chris Godwin's going to be healthy. They did bring in. They brought in Ngbuka. I can't pronounce his goddamn name, but they brought in other weapons. And here is kind of where you need to strike when the iron's hot. You know, do you keep him there until he goes off to greener pastures? He's going to give you 17, maybe. I don't think so. I think that production kind of drops with the additions of, you know, the draft with Mbuka and then Godwin coming back. They took Tez Johnson super late, but I mean, I don't think he's too much of a threat. But I think it's one of those things where it's like you kind of need to move off of him and get what you can. I did see a couple trades here. Evans for a 2026 second and fourth.
No,
I think it's not. Mike Evans it's kind of lackluster for, you know, the trade return, but it's. Do you want to kind of get do you want to go younger? And you know, Muscles, you said when they turn 30, he's going to be turning 32, I think.
Yeah.
Kind of time to move on. Evans for a Juwan Jennings and a 2027 second. That one's kind of a little bit.
No.
And then there was this one straight up Evans for Tyreek Hill.
Well, I would just go Mike Evans at this point.
Yeah. Okay. That's almost like a parallel move that like I feel like you're going to get burnt either way.
Yeah, I think the Jennings in the second would be I think Jennings in the second would probably be the best case. I think really being the second round pick is kind of, you know, what you're going to get for him, I think.
Yeah, that early second, maybe even like the 112 at like the best case scenario at 31 years old. I disagree with you on this one, to be honest with you. He's a guy I
love Mike Evans too.
He's a guy, like, we talked about two offenses in the Steelers and the Green Bay Packers where we want no parts of them because we don't know what it's going to be like. I know Baker Mayfield's going to throw it like almost 40 some odd times a game, right? I know Mike Evans is going to be the prime factor as the pass catcher in that offense. I know Mike Evans is going to find the end zone a multitude of times. I can't.
Well, what about healthy Godwin and
Booker? No, get it back. I can't let him go. I can't.
So is he more of a guy you'd keep on your roster until he retires than Kelce is?
Yeah, I think so at the position.
Okay.
I think he plays. So Mike Evans is never. He's a a really good route runner, but he's not a guy who's always won with route running. He's always won with his size, if that makes sense. And that's never going to go away, right? He's always going to be 6'4", 6'3", 200 some odd pounds and just play bully ball with people, right? He's not going to be like a Devontae Adams where he might lose a step and he might lose some mobility in his routes. I think Mike Evans could still be that guy where you could just put it up and find the end zone, kind of, a red zone threat, even at like 33 years old. He's the kind of guy, to be honest with you, he was almost a buy for me a few weeks ago in our episode.
But dude, there's a reason they brought Mbuka in.
But Mbuka's going to be.
There's a reason they brought him in.
So what would you have to add to Mike Evans to get a Mbuka? I wouldn't mind trying something along those lines.
Mike Evans in a third probably to get Mbuka at this point.
Yeah.
Because Mike falls in that like early second, 112, and then Emeka's gone at like the 110 and 111 area.
So I think like how we were talking about Kelsey, like, it's a gamble about a boom game. Mike Evans is gonna have a boom game. So I think like if you are like not a contender and you don't need Mike Evans, I think that's definitely a possibility. I mean, can you get a second plus at that? Can you get a second and a third? Can you maybe get 2 seconds if he has a boom game mid-season if somebody needs a what the heck flex, or something like that, wide receiver too, So,
Mike, did you trade away or traded for Mike Evans last season?
I traded for Mike Evans. I got Mike Evans, Josh Jacobs, and something else for like DJ Moore in a first or something like that. And I was trying to make a playoff push. So it made sense in reality. And I still think that ends up working out this year with Josh Jacobs and Mike Evans on my roster. So I'm going to disagree with you on this one, Rich, as well. I think Musk seems like he might be in the middle of this one.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see it. Like I said, I'm a trade veterans kind of guy anyway. So I don't have many shares of Mike Evans. But because, I mean, just seems like you can get a first for Mike Evans for the past 3 years. He just seemed like he was the guy that everybody just traded for a first. But I know the first years are behind us. I mean, if you can get a second plus, I'm all about it. Like I said, especially after a boom game. If you don't need them, got to trade them away to a contender.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with that. So it looks like we're split on this one. I'm going to go with my first sell here, and that is going to be a guy, again, another dude that is a hot commodity, a hot name in the dynasty streets right now. Is a lot of people's buy, and I'm going to go against the grain on this one, and maybe I'll have egg on my face after this. That is going to be Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. Came in week 7 after, getting shot. So, obviously he wasn't going to be 110% coming into the season. So I give him a little bit of a grace period there. Finished as wide receiver.
A little bit. You're still getting rid of him. Yeah, you're giving him a little bit.
8.5 points per game when he came back. His price has gone up since the departure of Debo. I think people are kind of very intrigued by the fact of Ayuk being disgruntled as well. I don't believe – so basically what I'm saying is I don't believe Ricky Pearsall is a number 1 wide receiver on an offense. He's probably a better off as like a wide receiver 2. So if Debo and both Ayuk are gone, like I don't think Ricky Pearsall returns on your investment as a wide receiver 1.
Do you know who would though?
Juwan Jennings. Yeah.
There you go, buddy.
He's currently wide receiver 34 on Keep Trade Cut, going ahead of guys like Jaden Higgins, the aforementioned Brandon Ayuk, Mike Evans, Jaden Reed, Chris Godwin, and Trey Harris. I would say maybe 80% of those guys I would take over Ricky Pearsall, especially Trey Harris, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Ayuk, Higgins. I would take all those guys over Pearsall right now. I don't see him being the focal point of an offense that a lot of people are. So if you're getting that early second, and obviously I think he was maybe a mid to late second in most rookie drafts. Maybe a mid second is last year was probably around his price range. So you're getting a better draft pick this year. I think I would definitely flip him for like a 2026 first, because I've seen that happen a few times as well. And if you could do that, I'm all aboard selling Ricky Pearsall, because I don't think he's going to give you the upside that I think we're all hoping for. Because we've seen it where, and I bet on Kincaid last year, where the targets were now available to him. I don't think Ricky Pearsall is going to be the prime factor of those targets. I think it's going to be like a George Kittle feasting this year. What do you guys think about Ricky Pearsall?
Yeah, I honestly was out on the hype, and then I kept getting these trade offers for Ricky Pearsall like past couple of weeks. I'm like, there must be some hype, and then I listened to Bob on the show there, and Bob's all about, and I was like, I mean, I see what they're saying, but like I'm just kind of with you guys. Like I just don't think he's going to be a game stopper. I think wide receiver 2 at best.
Yeah, I think so at best.
And I think for what the hype machine's kind of throwing out there, it's like I'm with you on this one.
I think I'd rather take a swing on like a Jaden Higgins, a Trey Harris. Like, I think those guys have higher upside. Even like the Mike Evans we just talked about. I would take, if as a contender, I would take the swing on Mike Evans over Ricky Pearsall. A lot of people are going to say like, oh, he was a first-round pick last year. I think 90% of the population was surprised.
It was a reach that they took him in the first.
Rick. Whoa. I aged you there a little bit. Rich, what do you think about Ricky Pearsall?
No, I'm with you. I kind of think, honestly, with Ayuk being disgruntled again, I don't think Pearsall's the guy. I think Jennings is going to be the guy. But with everything that you kind of laid out there, I would ship him out.
Yeah, I'm glad. Well, look, hey, I've seen, if you just check Twitter where Ricky Pearsall's name in the Dynasty space, he is like everybody's constant buy. Right. And I just can't get behind it. I would rather take a swing on some guys that have higher upside, in my opinion. So let's go with you, Muss. Who is your first wide receiver sell?
My first wide receiver sell is a guy that I just wasn't in on from the beginning when I was watching his tape. And I think he went a little bit too high in the NFL draft. And I just think people are taking him too high in the rookie drafts right now. And that's Ted McMillan.
Oh, love it.
I don't know how you guys feel about Tech McMillan, but when you sent me an invite to the show, I went on Keep Trade Cut, and I was like, all right, who do I think's too high? I'm sitting here, Tech McMillan's wide receiver 15. Like, I don't agree with that, and I think like wide receiver 15 is probably his ceiling, like as far as like year to year. So I think as far as that goes, I think that's just like we knew going into this that this was not a wide receiver. Like it was kind of deep, but no front end heavy hitters, No
Malik Neighbors, no Marvin.
No. So like I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, boy, last year, you would have taken Neighbors, you would have taken Harrison, you would have taken Vlad, you would have taken probably Worthy, Brian Thomas, of course, like. I'm sitting here like, what, and Ted McMillan I've been seeing go like 1.4, 1.5, 1.6. I just don't get that. So then I went to the trade browser, not calculator, and I was sitting there looking, and it's like Ted McMillan and a 4th for Xavier Worthy. I'm not a big Xavier Worthy guy, but like
I would take Worthy.
I would take like that. This I would do Ted McMillan and a 26 first for Bo Nix. I don't know how you guys feel about that one.
That might be a little much for me on that one.
Here's one of your sells: Ted McMillan and Freiermuth Ted McMillan for Freiermuth and a 25 first or 26 first. I'm sorry. So you get Freiermuth and a first for Ted McMillan. Maybe you get a better,
depending on what I think that team is.
Right. So there's not a lot of trades out there for Ted McMillan. I just sat there and basically was looking at the Keep Trade Cut, and I was like, wide receiver 15. I'm not feeling him at wide receiver 15.
You want to know a Ted McMillan trade I saw that had me like confused as all hell? Ted McMillan straight up for AJ Brown. You could not get me
Oh.
to hit accept
Oh.
quick enough to get AJ Brown.
Yeah.
I
Oh
am
boy.
all over that.
Yeah.
Rich,
Yeah.
would you take AJ Brown? Because it sounds like you might be on the opposite side.
No, I know. I mean, I'm on the opposite side, but I would take AJ Brown. I mean, I'm on the
Okay.
opposite side of selling McMillan. I think McMillan and Leggett have something. They have an opportunity to build something really, really positive there. With it kind of seems like they're kind of building behind Young, which is what he needed.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he's going to be the clear cut number one there with Leggett stepping down to the wide receiver 2. But I think it's like kind of wheels up for him, dude. I don't know. I'm like I was high on McMillan.
Okay.
And I think they can, Young has the ability to get on the ball. So I wouldn't be selling him just yet. I want to see what he can do. And 15, I mean, that
feels
is a
really
little high.
Mhm.
But I feel like that's a little high just based off of the quarterback throwing to him rather than
Right.
him himself.
The talent himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wasn't the biggest Ted McMillan guy coming into this draft, and seeing him go straight up for AJ Brown is just like, wow, like
Insane.
that's insane to me.
Well, I mean, but real quick, Mike, we know what kind of player AJ Brown can be playing here, obviously, but we also know that that it's no secret that the struggles that the Eagles have with the passing game. So I can see, where they're coming from as maybe someone who doesn't know, but like,
Yeah.
it's
And there
no,
was
it's
a
no
lot of
secret.
AJ Brown, like AJ Brown reading the book on the sideline. AJ
Yeah.
Brown, like
Like
there
we
was
thought that was fantastic here, but
yeah, like there was a lot of like I mean even like the news around here, it was like, oh, AJ Brown's a diva, da 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 da. It's I feel like that might have played a part into your AJ Brown for Ted McMillan. Like I feel like there was a huge dip on AJ Brown at that point.
There's still a huge dip on
still,
AJ
yes,
Brown,
yes, and
which
still.
is crazy to me.
But I think that's the same thing with McMillan. Is I think it's the
hype
talent
right
of the
now.
quarterback, and I think it's the ability to get him the ball. But we know what kind of offense we have. We have a run first offense. This is fine, but it's on the the hype of the quarterback, the ability for him to get him the ball, rather than the talent of the wide receiver, in my opinion.
See, I saw a lot of like pre-draft, like he's Mike Evans, he's Drake London, he's this, he's that. I don't see that at all for him. I see him more of like the Michael Pittman type, which by the way, I'm a big Michael Pittman fan. So that's not a knock at all. But like for fantasy purposes, Michael Pittman is closer to like wide receiver 20 to wide receiver 22 most years, except there was that one year where I think he was a wide receiver 1. If you get that out of Ted McMillan, that's fine. That's actually decent because it's going to be consistent wide receiver 2 values. But like see him going for like an alpha wide receiver, alpha wide receivers of that ilk, like the AJ Browns, the players like that. I would absolutely flip him. So I actually really like this one, Moss. I actually agree with you. If I could even call me crazy, if I could tear down in my draft where Ted McMillan's on the board, say at 1-6, and move back to like that 110, 111 to get like, if I wanted a wide receiver, get like a Mecca Ibuka, 100 times out of 100 on that one for me.
I agree.
Pre-draft, for me, Emeka was my wide receiver 2. Unfortunately, Luther Burden was my wide receiver 1, and Luther took a little bit of a hit going to Chicago with all the pass catchers there, to be honest. So I really do agree with you on this one. I think selling on the hype on Ted McMillan right now, because I don't even think he's like, is he ranked higher than Rome Odunze right now in keep trade cut?
Yes,
that's insane to me. There is you. If I were to watch both of those back-to-back, those players back-to-back, their scouting film, Rome Odunze versus Ted McMillan, Rome Odunze's film was so much better than Ted McMillan's.
You love Rome Odunze so much, dude.
Would you take Rome? So you wandered off.
Bladder, by the way, so I have to get off. Yeah, I have a baby bladder and I get kidney stones, so I got to pay my man. Sorry.
Would you rather have Rome or Ted?
Ted.
That's insane to me.
Tetris. What do you mean? They just revamped the entire offense in Chicago. And there's 99 mouths to feed there. There's like
there's
2.
a lot of mouths to feed.
Yeah, exactly, dude. There's 2 mouths to feed in Carolina.
Your guy, Damian Sanders. Don't forget him.
Oh yeah, no, well, he's a big factor, dude.
Okay, I was being sarcastic. I know. But yeah, I agree with you selling on Ted McMillan. Rich seems like he's the opposite end on this.
Yeah.
So, Rich, give us your second wide receiver sell.
All right, be prepared.
What is
Gonna
this?
be.
Scar? Be prepared.
I was trying to think of what movie it was from. It's going to be controversial, but it's kind of Muscles where you were going with Brock Bowers. It's going to be Brian Thomas.
Okay.
I'm going with
I love
the
it.
ejectocito on Brian Thomas Jr. I think Travis Hunter is a better wide receiver than he is. I think he's going to take a lot of balls away from him. Balls. He did finish the season with 16.7 points per game. Finished as wide receiver 4 overall. But if you look at DynastyDaddy.com, the absolute fucking haul of trades you can get, it's not so much his talent that I'm trading away. It's, dude, Thomas for Brees Hall, Marvin Harrison Jr., a 2026 first, and a 2027 first. Jesus Christ, is that for
that
one
can't
guy?
Be, that's got to be a mistake. Like, there's somebody had to have been drunk, except
maybe. But that's what I read, and I'm like, dude.
I personally traded away Brian Thomas. This was at the end of last year, and I got Malik Neighbors in a second. Like I was like,
what?
Oh.
Yeah, like somebody sent that to me, and I'm like, I just like it was one of those where I had to make sure I was getting the right side. So I was like, there's no way this is right. And
right, dude. Yeah, dude. You can get the trades out there are unreal, and that's it's no slant on him, but what you can get back So Thomas and your boy RJ Harvey for CeeDee Lamb and a 26 first.
CeeDee Lamb side on that one.
Okay. Thomas for Waddle, a 26 first and a 27 first.
Yeah.
That one's
Which,
closer.
by the way, did you guys see that tweet was not real with Jalen Waddle?
Oh, yeah, I know. I had a feeling.
Oh, okay. I was like,
I fell for that. I fell for it.
I was like, he was about to be a sell, dude. I was like, he was going to be a sell, and I'm like, upon a further, I'm like, this dude's a fucking fatty, and I'm like, wait a second.
Wait a second. He looked like what was his name? It was it Devin Funchess? What was it?
I think so, yeah.
Devin Funchess, dude. I remember I was high as a kite on him too, dude. He's gonna be great. Now listen to this real quick. I found this one. This one's juicy. I'm like, Brian Thomas for 2026 firsts. Brian Thomas and 2026 firsts. I'm sorry, for Rashee Rice, Dalton Kincaid, a 2026 third, and Ashton Genty.
Golly,
so that's a whale of a whale.
Yeah, I don't even know what to do with that one because it's like
so. But see, the whole thing encompasses you can get
any lazy style with it.
No, you can get an absolute haul for Brian Thomas, dude.
You really can.
In a year that I think he's going to take a huge dip with Travis Hunter there, I would pull the trigger on any of those trades, I think.
Yeah, the hype machine on Brian Thomas is out of control. So I like I said, I lived it because I got that, and I was like, I one of those where I had to do a double take. I had to make sure I was on the receiving end of that one, and the hype machine on Brian. I love Brian Thomas. He was
same, dude. I think he's a hell of a
high
ball
on my
player.
list, in rookie drafts and everything like that. But yeah, I mean, the hype machine's out of control. So I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I agree. He was a name I was looking at as a possible sell, but I just couldn't. I wasn't brave enough like you, Rich. So thank you for your bravery to say that out loud.
I got you.
My next sell, a guy that kept standing out to me, is going to be wide receiver for the Cleveland Browns, coming off his best season of his career, Jerry Jeudy. Now, wide receiver 11 last year, wide receiver 26 in points per game at 14.3. There's a pretty big drop off there in a points per game rate because he did have a 40-point game sprinkled in there towards the end of the season. So that spiked his total up a little bit. My biggest issue with Jeudy is who is going to be the quarterback, right? Is it going to be
nailed it?
Is it going to be Joe Flacco? Which I actually think that's okay. I don't hate that, but to be honest, and this is going to sound crazy, I think Joe Flacco benefits guys like Njoku and Cedric Tillman more than it does a Jerry Jeudy. Because looking at I actually wish I kept it. But looking at Joe Flacco with Michael Pittman and a fellow ex-wide receiver like Cedric Tillman, the numbers for him were great, right? So I don't know. And then you got Kenny Pickett, right? Which I want no parts of that offense if Kenny Pickett's the starter. Dylan Gabriel, want no parts of that offense.
Whoa. Kenny Pickett is a Super Bowl winning quarterback, okay?
Former first round, Kenny two gloves. I want no part of that offense besides the running back. Although I might not even be interested in the running backs because they're just going to stack the box and make Kenny Pickett beat them. That's not going to fucking happen. Dylan Gabriel, maybe a little.
I think he wins.
Probably
I think
not.
he wins it.
I think Flacco starts the season. I think Joe Flacco is the starter to begin the season. And then you got Shedeur Sanders, who's the biggest wild card of all of the quarterbacks in that room because he's probably the best of the four. Like, I don't think he was a fifth-round pick.
What about the pervert? We adding the pervert into this mix, or
no? He's done. He's cooked.
You think so? Is he?
Yeah.
Is he like what is the verdict on him? Is he actually hurt?
He's out for
he's
the
hurt.
year.
Yeah, he's done for the
He's
year.
out for the year?
Yeah.
Is he from what? I must have missed it.
Did
he?
Yeah.
When the fuck was this?
A couple weeks ago.
Where?
Or a couple months ago almost.
At the Wishy-Washy? Where the hell did this happen?
It was very quiet. Yeah, that's why they brought in like 17 quarterbacks.
I was wondering. I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess it's going to be a competition, but
Browns have two Super Bowl winning.
Oh, yeah, good point. Autobahn's own Joe Flacco.
I had a very interesting trade that I saw on Dynasty Daddy, and I want to pick your brains with this one. Keon Coleman and a third for Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, yeah, I'm taking Keon Coleman, man. I was high again. The guy I was high as the kite on.
To be honest, the first I was looking. God, I'm sorry.
No, I just think he hasn't really hit his stride yet in Buffalo, and there's not anyone besides maybe my boy Elijah Moore out there. And that's not even. Oh boy, he's a slot guy.
He's a dog.
He's a Chihuahua. He's in the middle. He's an ankle biter. He's an ankle biter. He's not a husky or a shepherd, buddy.
My thing is I was looking at the first, I believe it was 9 weeks of the season before Keon Coleman got hurt. Keon Coleman had 9.3 points per game to Jerry Jeudy's 9.2, which was shocking to me in that stretch. I would take the upside on Keon Coleman there and getting a third on top of that. And then I see him going straight up from Mike Evans in a multitude of trades. And I think I've mentioned 87 times here to buy Mike Evans a counter.
See, that's like a type of trade that I would take Mike Evans on though, because it's like I've never been high on Jerry Jeudy even since he was in Denver. I would take Mike Evans on that one.
Yeah, Mr. Feet for Hands Jerry Jeudy still was one of the league.
He can run routes like none other. He just.
Sure.
Man. Yeah.
Give me enough time, dude. I can run enough routes.
But like I said, my biggest fear for Jerry Jeudy right now is the quarterback situation. And I think that's a fair argument because just who's going to be the starter? Are they really any good at this point? I'm not too sure. What is the verdict? Sounds like Rich is sell and then Muss. What do you think?
Yeah, I was a big Jerry Jeudy guy because, of course, I like Denver. And when he was in Denver, I thought sky's the limit with him and Drew Lock. And, of course, the bottom fell out of that one. But, yeah, I have a lot of Jerry Jeudy shares. And I was all excited when they signed Flacco. I was telling Ty on the feud, I was like, I'm telling you, or not Flacco, Winston. Last year, I was like, I'm telling you, once Winston takes over, it's wheels up. And Ty's like, no. It happened. But
he fed everybody, though.
Oh, yeah, he fed families. Yeah, it's not good there in Cleveland. As soon as he signed that big contract in Cleveland, I knew it was probably time to get out because, let's face it, it's Cleveland,
Yeah.
TJ said
we say the same thing about Pittsburgh,
Nick Chubb, who have we ever wanted fantasy-wise out of Cleveland?
Nick Chubb.
That's it. Other than Nick Chubb,
Peyton Hillis.
Yeah,
he's the Madden cover
1 year.
Yeah. I think I'd rather, because I've seen 26 seconds plus early 25 seconds for Jerry Jeudy. Like I said, Keon Coleman in the third. Did you answer the Keon Coleman in the third one, Muss? Would you rather have?
Yeah,
Keon
I would do Keon Coleman in the third.
just because I like that offense in Buffalo, kind of like what they're doing. I think Keon and Shakir kind of benefit each other well. I'm interested in what Keon can do in year two, and some of the hype behind him right now has kind of started to pick up a little bit of steam from things I've seen. So it seems like we got a clean sweep there. I think Muss, you're up, right? Have you got your second cell?
I said all mine.
All right. So I was doing the whole keep trade cut thing, and I was going down through, and I saw Nico Collins is still wide receiver.
Man, you're swinging for the fences on these ones.
I know. I love Nico Collins. So Nico did have that one good year, but then CJ Stroud kind of took a step back last year, sophomore slump, whatever.
For sure.
It's just with them losing Tunsil, and I forget what happened. Did they lose another offense? I feel like
they did. They traded somebody else, I think, too.
Yeah, like
didn't they go to the Bears? Didn't they try to go to the Bears?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think you're right, if I'm not mistaken.
So
they just lost a plethora of offensive linemen this offseason.
They did, and they really didn't do a whole lot to fill them holes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sit there and I think about. This was at the end of last year. It was like when some team was making a playoff push. I was in one of them DNA Strand Crew leagues. I got 3 first-round picks for Nico Collins.
Golly.
Woo!
That's
God damn.
And that was like.
I heard that guy called the goddamn police. Jesus Christ.
I know. It just showed up. It was just one of those that showed up in my inbox. And
you had to check it again, too?
Yeah. You got okay. Man, I'm making sure I'm on the right side of this. But I did search the trade browser, and there's a lot of them that are getting 2 first-round picks. I feel like I'd want a little bit more on top.
Yeah, I think so too on that one.
Nico Collins is 26 years old. He hasn't really produced other than that one good year. He was a wide receiver 1. He was wide receiver 12. So I guess he was a back-end wide receiver 1. Other than that, last year he's a wide receiver 23. He did only play 12 games though.
That was his third-year breakout. Was the big year? I think.
Yeah.
It was, right?
Yep. Other than that, he was wide receiver 86 and wide receiver 87. And
basically not rosterable at that point.
Exactly. So he's 26 years old. I don't want to say 26 is old, but it's definitely one of those you got to keep that age in the back of your mind. And, I'm seeing Nico for Saquon Barkley. I mean,
all day. Yeah.
Madden cover aside, put that aside. You're definitely smashing.
Arm tattoo aside. Where's he at?
Yeah, there
Can't get it in. There he is, baby.
That's awesome. But I think Nico's another one I think you're going to explore. I'm not trading him just to trade him. But I think he's one that you throw out there, and if you can get multiple firsts for him, just if he never repeats wide receiver 1 ever again, I think getting multiple firsts plus maybe a little on top, I think is a good return on investment.
I'm looking to see where he went in the most recent startup. So he went at the 3-1 ahead of guys. I'm going to ask you, Muss, who you'd rather have. Nico Collins or Drake London?
See, that one's a tough one because he's right. Drake London's right behind him and keep trade cut. And that one's tough. I think I'd still rather go Nico.
Wow. Okay. I think I go Drake London on that one, to be honest with you. Rich?
Yeah, I think I'm going London as well.
Okay.
Marvin Harrison Jr.
I think that one I'm going Marv.
Yeah.
Me too. Lad? That one's close. Would you say Muscles?
I think I'm going to go Lad on that one.
Last one, JSN.
Collins.
Really? JSN. I think that's really JSN. We're going floor ceiling. I think JSN's a safer floor. The PPR. You got VR upside, but he's kind of like the breaker.
You're
type
breaking
player
up, Mike.
also.
I can't hear you. You
Can you hear
there?
me now? Yeah.
There you go. Now you're back.
There you
I
go.
think
You were
he's more of like the higher up.
we-
He's the higher upside guy, Nico Collins, compared to JSN, and even Ladd. He's got higher upside than Ladd as well.
I think we're kind of missing the huge elephant in the room in taking Higgins and Noel in the draft. I think
that's
Higgins is
another
going to.
one,
I
yeah.
think Higgins is going to take over. I think, in my opinion, I was high as a kite on Higgins coming out. Yeah, I just that's how I feel, man. That's how I feel. And if you can get a nice trade package for Nico Collins, they drafted 2 wide receivers within the first 4 rounds.
They did.
I think
You
that
know,
has
that's
to do
gotta
with
tell you
Tank
something.
Dell. I think that has to do with Tank Dell a little bit, and then losing Stephon Diggs, and I don't know if like bringing in 2 wide receivers in the draft is like a huge thing, but
it'll definitely take away from his receptions. Like there's more mouths to feed. If you can trade him away and get a big trade package for him, then absolutely.
And those are 2 wide
Yeah,
receivers. I
that's
think,
one.
Rich, I know you were high on Jaden Higgins. I liked Higgins as well. I was high on Noel. You liked Noel. I know, if I'm not mistaken, Muss, you were big on Higgins and lower on Noel. But I think that's just like a good 3 wide receiver room right now. And it wouldn't shock me, like if Jaden Higgins ends up being like a consistent wide receiver 2 for fantasy and kind of eats into a guy like Nico Collins. So I kind of see where Rich is going with that. And I see where the sell opportunity is for him. And when we go back to that Drake London, Nico Collins conversation, I kind of like what Atlanta's doing slightly more, with a really good offensive line, a Michael Penix who will rifle the football, Bijan Robinson who keeps everything honest.
Do we have to? You have to add in there is Kirk Cousins playing.
No, Kirk Cousins is not playing over Michael Penix. It's not happening.
Bro, he's $100 million quarterback. It has to be in the conversation. Is he going to play or not? Like, it's not going to be like, oh, well, he's just here holding a clipboard for $100 million. Does he get cut? Does he get traded? Or is he playing?
It'd be crazy if they trade him to Cleveland in that 18 quarterback room they have right now.
Right.
They don't have enough red dots to pass it around.
I think if I remember right, and definitely might be something worth looking up. I think a lot of that was front loaded.
The Kirk Cousins money. Okay, yeah, you might be right.
But either way, he's still there. So he's still, he's still a factor to add in there.
And
but then could come out and say, Kirk Cousins is our quarterback.
I kind of always said this on the DNA show too. I remember it was right after Kirk Cousins tore his Achilles. The one Twitter doctor, I can't even remember which one. I know there's a couple of them. But he said it was his I can't remember if it was his drive. It was the more important leg.
The drive leg, yeah, I remember seeing that. Yeah.
Yes, so it was the drive leg that Kirk Cousins tore. And I remember him saying that this is going to be a longer, lengthier process to heal than the Aaron Rodgers one that was his, the other leg. So I remember him saying like the velocity is going to be off for a while and stuff like that. So like I still keep that in the back of my head. Like maybe we see like an 85% Kirk Cousins that was in Minnesota. I don't know. Maybe Kirk Cousins is washed, and I'm just like sitting here rambling. For no reason.
But it's definitely a factor that you have to that plays in to what you're thinking.
Yeah.
No, for sure. So yeah, I think honestly, like it sounds crazy to say out loud trading Nico Collins, but I think the way you presented it, the way we talked about it, I wouldn't be against trading him. So I'll agree with that, Rich.
I'm out. I'll trade him. Yeah.
You said thumbs up. I'm out. I'm trading him. I'm like, wait.
I'm out on him. I know I sent a very confusing message there. I'm out on him, and I also wanted to say I think Higgins is going to be the number 1. You heard it here first.
Yeah. I could see that.
I could definitely see it. It's going to be weird though. I don't know.
Yeah, sure. It's always weird the first time, buddy.
All right. Well, I think we got all of ourselves in there for both positions. Some really spicy ones. I apparently played the safe game in all of my cells, and you guys.
We're out on 22-year-old football players. They were like, fuck them. As I sit my fat ass in my basement, I'm like, fuck that guy. He sucks.
Muss, I really appreciate you coming on. This was a very fun podcast. I'm glad we finally were able to have you on because I believe you and I had talked about this previously.
Yeah.
You guys are building something crazy over at the Dynasty DNA. Like I said, you could find Muss on the Fantasy Feud, but Muss, plug everything you have going on and everything you do over at the Dynasty DNA crew.
Yeah, we got the Dynasty DNA going on over there. Check us out on Apple Pod, Spotify, all that. So, yeah, we got a couple shows. I think you're on a show, aren't you?
The Triple Threat podcast,
Triple
where
Threat,
I yell at Wiz. I yell at Wiz for about an hour and a half.
What was the whole weed whacker conversation?
Don't get me fucking fired up on this one again.
You mean a weed eater?
Yeah.
Rich doesn't call it that. He's just trying to spice me up a little bit. I need somebody.
You don't get the thing outside. It goes yum 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 yum, and it just yum yum yum. It just eats all the weeds.
I just need somebody to explain to me, like I'm 5, how a weed whacker eats weeds compared to literally whacking them, because that's exactly what it does.
I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't even have a mouth or a stomach, so I don't know how it eats them.
If you
after you said that, I was like, I've never really like sat there and like thought about that. It's just something like I don't know. It's just something we've always said around here, and it's just something that sticks.
Is that what they call it is that what they call it in Pittsburgh, the weed eater?
So I have funny story. I'll keep this short. So I have a buddy that grew up around your guys' area, and he met a woman that went to Clarion University. I live in Clarion, so western part. So he moved back here for a couple years, ended up working with me. That's how we met. Became buddies. I was in his wedding and everything. Well, then they moved back. So as soon as you sent me that, I texted him because he always makes fun of me for calling hoagies subs, and he said we say mum weird, But so he's always he always picks up on my weirdisms, So
weirdisms.
He goes, yeah, you guys do say weed eater. He's like, that's one thing I did pick up on you guys, but I just let that one go because he's always like, I'm always like, hey, you want a pop? And he goes, what the fuck's a pop? Like, it's soda. And I'm like,
I don't know.
What's this? The 1940s? You're gonna get a malt too, Muss?
Yeah. So like, yeah. So I texted him, and he was like, yeah, that's definitely one that I picked up on that I never told you. I was like, I never really like thought about it. Like Mike was like spitting it to me, like, explain to me how it eats weeds, and I'm like, yeah, I guess it don't. It's just something that it's just always been said around here, and we just go with it, I guess. So that was a good conversation.
If you were to call a weed whacker, it would make sense because that's literally what it does. Like a lawnmower would make sense, but the weed whacker thing throws me through a fucking loop every single time. I don't even know how that conversation started. I think TJ was like, oh, I was using my weed eater. I'm like, what the fuck did you just say? And it set me off in a spiral, and I just couldn't handle it. But again, Muss, thank you for jumping on with us. Make sure you follow the Dynasty DNA crew. Make sure you join their Discord as well. They are a great group of guys. I talk to them almost every day. I'm sure TJ wants to fight me 90% of the time with the amount of times I text him during the day. So again, thank you for coming on. Any closing statements you want to lay out there besides selling Brock Bowers?
It was fun being on. I'm glad we finally were able to put this together. Like you said, we were talking about it forever. I know we've been on together during the draft shows and stuff like that. It's always fun to shoot the shit and stuff like that. So, but yeah, we're definitely gonna have to do this again.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rich and I have been doing this at the end of every single podcast. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. If you are struggling with your mental health, something Rich and I care very much about, make sure you're reaching out to somebody. Make sure you're open and honest with everyone that you need someone to talk to. I think that's extremely important. Rich, how do you feel?
Yeah. It's you're not a wimp to talk to people. So if you have an issue, get it out there as much as it might make you feel uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Get it out there and let it be known.
Exactly. Absolutely. Remember, you matter. So again, this is going to be the Dynasty Dogs. We will see you guys next week when we go over our running backs and quarterbacks, making our cases. We'll be back next week. This might be our last live for a few more weeks, so we'll be back live eventually, but you'll find us on audio on Saturdays still. So again, for the Dynasty Dogs, for the Fantasy Football Universe, for the Dynasty DNA as well, we will see you guys next time. Have a good night.
See ya.
Peace.